Welcome to Sweeping the Country, a very special, and I mean very special, Vault edition. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host today, Mr. Jimmy Carter. Hey, Jimmy.
Oh, let me tell you, this guy, he's so smart. He's so much fun to talk to and to be around. He is the most commercially successful Hollywood director or anybody's movie director of all time.
Wow.
I mean, Jaws, The Color Purple,
anything
Indiana Jones series, all of them, God. Jurassic Park, the original, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and on and on and on.
Any movie you ever loved.
That's just about. He's explored all kinds of different areas, and Steven Spielberg is now 75, born in Cincinnati, Ohio. His alma mater is California State University, Long Beach. He's been making movies since 1959.
Oh, man.
And, he was not an overnight success. He did, a lot of stuff, and he just really wanted it really bad. And he's got a lot of great stories about things he did to get on the lot at Universal.
I bet.
He directed a couple of night galleries in Columbo's.
Columbo?
And then did the television film Duel in 1971 before they let him go with the Sugarland Express, which did all right. And then he became a household name with the movie Jaws in 1975. Now,
that movie, by the way, thank you, Stephen, basically wrecked my ability to go into the ocean for the rest of my life.
It changed everybody's position. No one that's ever seen that movie has ever gone to the beach.
Right.
In fact, right now when we do this, which is the end of June 2022, they tag a lot of great white sharks. They've tagged like 230 of them or 280, something like that. And many of them are headed toward Cape Cod as we speak, because they don't know why. They're leaving their Florida warmer waters and going up to the warmer waters now of Cape Cod. So if anybody's swimming off the coast of Massachusetts, you might want to watch the movie Jaws and see how that works out for everybody.
Get out of the water.
But when we talked the first time, I think it was like 1991, and Steven Spielberg, he was always one of the sharpest guys in the room. I think this was for the movie Hook. And in the middle of it, you're going to hear this interview disrupted. It's going to stop, and you're going to not figure out what is going on. It's because Robin Williams stuck his head in. And then I said, come on over. So he came over and stood behind Steven with his hands on his hips. And then they were talking, and then we go back to the interview. But that's what you hear in the middle of the Steven Spielberg for his movie that he really enjoyed doing. I didn't even put in the list, and that was Hook.
Well, Stephen, I've gotten the great book of movie directors here and wanted to read a couple of things from you that you may or may not remember saying. In 1982, I've been waiting for Hollywood to leave me alone and stop forcing me to make these $30 million movies so I can get around to making something I really want to make. Nearly a $100 million movie, that's what you're for.
Well, now they're trying to get me to make these $60 million movies,
I know you want to make smaller films, and you have, but I mean, this is fun for you. This is really Hollywood when you get to do all these sets and use all your tricks.
Yeah, this is like old Hollywood, and this is like a combination of all the crafts that all come together for an event like a fantasy, when you make a fantasy film, and everybody brings their craft to the table. And that's fun for me. I mean, this is kind of like my water that I love swimming in. But I haven't swum in this water for a while because I've been, completely wrapped up in whatever I happen to be feeling. That year I made Color Purple. I happened to really want to do that movie, and I wasn't trying to kick myself into an adult mode. I just really responded to the material. Empire of the Sun responded to the book and made the movie. I was also not trying to force myself into, let's call it the Oliver Stone or the Jonathan Demme school of filmmaking. But it's fun. I like variety a lot, and I like moving from one kind of territory, unexplored perhaps, into another kind of territory more familiar, as Hook is to me.
Well, this is a good movie to, I can't wait to take my littlest one and put her on my lap and we watch this movie together. And there aren't nearly enough movies that you can do this with. And that's what I liked about this film.
I wanted to make it generationally too, so I could, bring my whole family to the movie, because we always open the paper on a weekend, and usually we divide up. It's, okay, I'm going to see this movie, and then the kids can go, we'll drop the kids off at this cartoon, and we'll pick them up later. I mean, usually I can't find a movie myself to take the whole family to, so part of it was that Dustin said he wanted to make the movie because he wanted to make it for his kids. That he had never made a film for his kids. Even Tootsie was too grown up for his kids. And he had never made a picture in his entire career for children. And that gave him a hunger to play Captain Hook.
When I left this film, and when I first saw it, it had this feel of a classic. I mean, it is a classic story, but I think you've made a classic, and that's something I know you wanted to do. But were you scared during this thing, this whole process of just it going crazy and just blowing up because it's so big?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was scared every day I came to the set. I'd come to the set with my stomach turning over and over and over, partially because of the sheer responsibility. I feel real responsible to the people who take chances on movies. You know, I don't pull in my own pocket, and I don't pay for these movies myself. They're paid for by the studios, like the banks. You know, in this case, TriStar and Sony paid for Hook. In the case of the Indiana Jones films, Paramount paid for them. I mean, different studios pay for different pictures, and I've always felt a real responsibility. So when somebody gives me more money than I've ever had to make a movie before, this is the most expensive film I've ever had my hands on. Not because that was the goal, but bringing Neverland to life happens to cost more money than bringing downtown Los Angeles to life. So it was just part of the ingredients to make a kind of layer cake like this. It just was rich in ingredients and high calories, and it cost a lot of money. That's what got me nervous. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I didn't want to disappoint the audiences, and tinkering with a renowned classic such as the original J.M. Barrie Peter Pan. And I didn't want to, you know, disappoint the studio. So I walk a fine line between my yearning to make films for audiences, and yet in a film like this with so much writing on it in terms of what it cost, my not wanting to let the backers down. So
when Steven Spielberg's in a wad, what do you like?
Well, I got no fingernails for one thing, which I don't often show on TV. Don't zoom in because I'm embarrassed by them. And when I'm in a wad, I chew on things. You know, I do what John Ford did a lot, and I learned this from him. He used to pull up his collar. Mine's buttoned down right now, and he used to chew on that. When that was done, he'd pull on a handkerchief. So I have all these nervous habits. A lot of time when I'm watching a scene, I have calloused this finger. Because when I'm directing and I'm watching, like Robin and Dustin act, I have this one finger and I'm biting on my finger for as long as the scene goes, you know, and so I'm just I'm a basket case, basically.
But not a yeller or a screamer, more of an intense going crazy on the inside.
No, it's real focused on what I'm watching, usually, yeah.
And then I noticed a couple of things. You have an idea and you plan and you do all this wonderful planning, and then you get out there and you find that something doesn't work, and that's expensive, and I know that makes your stomach even go crazier to make the decision, we got to redo this again and blow a day.
Well, yeah, you know, a couple of scenes we shot over again from scratch, from beginning to end, only because we were learning our characters. And there's a learning curve on any movie. You can get the best script, but sometimes the words don't sound right, and you've got to bring people back in to change the words around a bit and make it sound better, make it sound more to the voice the character hears. Dustin has a Hook voice in his head. He tries to capture that, and that becomes his character. He did the same thing with Raymond Babbitt and Rain Man and Dorothy Michaels and Tootsie. Robin's the same way. Robin has a little voice that's sort of, and I try to guide the actors in finding these voices. And sometimes we find a voice, and then we see the dailies, and we realize what we need to do now. What we need to do is find the same voice with a slightly lower register. And on 2 scenes with Hook, we actually went back and reshot some of the scenes.
What would Steven Spielberg, the movie critic, be like? I mean, you go to movies on the weekend, I guess, with family. I mean, are you tough? Are you watching them like a surgeon?
I'm
are you
a
watching
terrible
them?
critic. I like everything. It's my problem. I find good in everything. Even movies that people say, how could you say one
Come
nice
back here,
thing?
come here. Do that. If you're going to do this, sit in his lap and let's tell a story or something. I mean, because I told him he couldn't stand up and say, I want to see your genitals.
My eyes.
Here we go again. We'll never see this.
It's Elvis Pan.
Hey, Elvis.
Elvis Pan.
Elvis.
I got my happy thought. I think I'm going to sing a song. Thank you very much. I'm going to sing a song right now about some nutty buddies. And
This is the other problem with making the movie. Talking about how hard it was laughing.
yeah, we had to.
The laughing hurt. The laughing hurt in the sides, in the throat.
And in the back, in the mind.
He is an editor's nightmare, though. I mean, editors see him and they go, ah! You know, because he comes in, he shows up, you're cutting on him all the time, you can't cut on a half a phrase.
Like, it's hard to get a 2-shot right now, right?
I hope so.
Damn it, I can't hold it. Damn it, Jim, the camera's too wide. Bones go wide. I'll be back.
We love you.
We've got gifts and things.
Gifts.
This is what happened. Every day on the
He makes
movie.
me sweat,
And
too.
tell
I mean, I sweat when he's
I don't mind
around.
if Robin hears this. When Robin was playing Peter Banning, when...
He's talking about you.
You can hear this.
I gotta go.
When Robin was playing Peter Banning, who's the guy with no imagination, uptight, you know, workaholic, you know, very focused on his work, very little peripheral vision toward his family. He was at his funniest between shots because he was the least comfortable playing that character. When he began to evolve into the Pan, then he was able to express it more through the character and less in between the shots. I thought it was really interesting about Robin.
What is your relationship with your older movies, the ones that you've done in the past? I mean, you look at them like books on a shelf. Are they like your children? Do you have fond memories? You have some you regret? I mean, what is your relationship with them?
Well, they're all kind of like family. You know, all the movies are like family because you spend so much time on each one of them. Some of them more than others. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that a film like E.T., where I didn't spend that much time on, you know, I had the idea for like 10 years in my head, but the movie I made very, very quickly. You know, it doesn't make the fondness any less. But I look at all movies as being, in a way, where I was during that year. You know, I can look at E.T. and I know where I was in 1981 and 82, and I can look at Empire of the Sun. I know exactly who I was in 1987.
And what was going on in your life.
What was going on in my life. And I think a lot of the movies that I choose to make are completely, I was in a very good place. I was very happy, and Hook was as a result of how happy I was in my life, in my family, with my family. And I think Hook's a result of that. And I think a lot of the movies are basically litmus tests.
The movie Hook, I don't think it was anywhere near as big a success. I know in the middle of this, some off-camera stuff, Julia Roberts was acting a little bit like a tart, like I always kind of thought she was. And she was, I think, getting ready to marry or stop marrying or do something with Kiefer Sutherland. They broke up or whatever.
Wow.
And this was going on while they're making Hook. And Hook had almost every soundstage in Los Angeles booked because he had so many sets, you know, that had to be built for it. It was an enormous project.
It was
of course,
great
Robin
movie.
Williams and Dustin Hoffman and all those classic people.
Yeah.
The story of Peter Pan. But I know Spielberg went out and had a talk with Tinkerbell.
Did he?
And pretty much told her she better straighten out or he was going to get her out of the film.
Wow.
And so she straightened out after that.
Interesting.
And that's kind of one of those stories that doesn't get told because it's not particularly correct. But Now, Spielberg had a movie that I loved, and it was not a tremendous success for him, called 1941, excuse me. I think it's one of the best big budget comedies of all time. It's up there with It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
I got to see
it. And it's a Japanese invasion. Californians were preparing to be invaded after the attack of Pearl Harbor. That is the truth. And Spielberg knew he was doing a comedy, but it was a lighthearted theme, and it is so funny. It is so funny. Studio heads disliked the film. The guy who's L.A. Times critic described 1941 as the most copious waste and major oil spill when it comes to resembling what it was. Another critic wrote, 1941 isn't simply a silly slur against any particular race, sex, or generation. It makes war against all humanity. I don't know what they're trying to say there, but he knows it was one of my favorite films. Spielberg, he loved that film. John Williams did the score, and if you could ever find it, it's got John Candy in it. It's got everybody in the world in that movie. 1941. I highly recommend it. Now, we're going into a movie I've only seen once. I don't want to see it again. I saw it once. It indelibly affected me. During one scene, I actually unconsciously grabbed the guy's arm that was on the armrest next to me.
Wow.
We saw it in a theater in Glendale. I think it was DreamWorks' actual home office where they had the screen. And I think Spielberg and everybody was there. But it was like a screening room, but a nice half-size theater with the most unbelievable sound.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the guy when the airplanes were strafing the beach of Normandy. This is the movie that we went to see and talked to Stephen about in 1998, Saving Private Ryan.
I love this quote, so see what you say. It says, Stephen, he hears everything, he knows everything, he sees everything, and remembers everything. Is that true?
Well, thanks, Mom. Thanks for the quote, Mom. Well, you know, I don't know. According to my kids, no, that's not true at all. It's not an accurate quote at all. According to my kids, I missed more than
this came from your cinematographer, I think.
Okay. Oh, Janusz Kaminski. Well, that's good. Because sort of together as a team, we're in the business of seeing things, and we have to.
How have you changed in, say, 10 years of directing? Can you see a visible change in how you conduct yourself on a set and how you edit and how you do your films?
You know, I think that I've changed in terms of the subject matter that interests me more as an older person than when I was a much younger filmmaker. But in terms of how I approach a story and how I, you know, gather the best people I can possibly gather around me to help make the movie, I think that's remained pretty consistent.
Pretty good at delegating?
Yeah, I'm very good at delegating. You have to, because
And
a movie is a collaboration. You cannot, you know, we're not Willem de Kooning painting, you know, American Impressionism on expressionism on a canvas. It really, everybody has a hold of that brush.
I know you did it on purpose to us as an audience in the first 30 minutes of this film, and I know you're hearing a lot about it, and I'm seeing the print people write a lot about that. You really did want to knock us on the head really hard in that first 30 minutes, didn't you?
Well, not in a sadistic way. I simply wanted, you know, people to understand that these soldiers fought the war very close to the way we've attempted to represent it. That this wasn't a glorification of war. I wasn't trying to romanticize World War II, which has, as you know, been utterly romanticized over the years, starting with the John Wayne pictures, as a noble war. It was certainly a necessary war, but I certainly wanted to immediately debunk the mythology of that war in the first, you know, 24 minutes of the picture.
So you've said, I think, before that John Wayne probably would not like this movie. Why?
Well, I don't think John Wayne would like the movie because I don't think the movie, characterizes the war as something to aspire to become part of. You know, it represents, you know, what happened as graphically as the people who have written about the war, like Stephen Ambrose and the veterans who fought in that war, who reported directly to us. I mean, it's their story that I really wanted to tell. I wasn't really interested in telling a sanitized version of that war because they didn't fight a sanitized war.
You know, some of my favorite movies, as I went back thinking about after I've seen this movie, I said, man, some of my favorite movies are like The Great Escape. I even like A Bridge Too Far. These are not perfect movies, but I enjoy Midway. I like those type of stories because they're about heroes, they're about people overcoming adversity, good over evil, all the good things that, you know, sometimes literature and even film has done for us. But no one really has tried to take the polish off the war, have they really?
No, I don't think so. I think Oliver Stone did a very good job taking the polish off the war with Platoon.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of really good anti-war movies that were made in the 50s, like Sam Fuller's Steel Helmet, that took the polish off the war. Even William Wellman's film Battleground, made in 1947 after the war, you know, somewhat tried to represent what really happened in Bastogne.
As a young director, did you like war movies? Is that some of the genre of films that you happen to like?
Yeah, war movies, I much preferred war movies to westerns when I was growing up.
Me too.
Because they were always on television, and I watched all of them, believe me. But it wasn't until Vietnam came on television, literally every night, and I began watching that, and my friends began going over to Southeast Asia. We were all in college, and a lot of my friends were drafted, and I was just on the verge of being drafted before I became I was fortunate enough to have a high lottery number when the lottery was inaugurated. But that changed it for me, and that was the time that I realized that war was not all that it was shown to us over the years.
Do you worry, you know, you're a video game guy. I know you and Robin Williams play
all the time.
Some kind of high-tech thing you guys do that I've never quite understood what this is. But do you think that we've really gotten the generation now that are really into this video game thing, and they don't realize that people really maybe die and they get bloody and their arms come off and horrible things happen in war? And you're going to show them, they're going to learn.
Yeah, they're going to. I think that in a sense, the video games, in a way, which is, I mean, when you get shot in a video game,
you just disappear.
Well, when you get shot, more blood comes out of you than people have in their systems in real life. I mean, it's all kind of accentuated and sensationalized and turned into a kind of theater of the macabre. I think a lot of these video games are very macabre and not very realistic. What we did was realistic, or at least attempted to be realistic. I think that a lot of movies and a lot of video games have desensitized young people to violence. And I think in a sense what this movie could do is resensitize those same people into understanding that this is serious business.
All your movies are a personal thing. Is this pretty personal to you, this film?
Yeah.
I mean, Schindler's List obviously I know was personal to you.
Yes.
But you know, you didn't go out and talk about it a lot in the press particularly. Do you feel something about this film that you really want to get the message out of something?
Well, yeah, I mean, there were a couple messages. The first thing is I would like people to see the picture of a certain age. I would not like people coming to see this movie who are 14 years old or under. And I kind of went on the road with this picture, which I haven't done in about 17 years, basically to warn parents, if they still have control over their 14-year-olds, and certainly anybody younger than that, this is literally a picture they shouldn't even, go to see with an adult with them. They should just not see it at all. And I think around 15 over that, kids are driving cars now, and many kids fought and died at 17 in Normandy. I think that's appropriate age to see this picture. So I was concerned about the level of reality and just wanted to let people know, and from me personally, that this might not be a film for everyone, but I think those who can manage it are going to be fulfilled by it.
Do I get the impression that you're kind of a juggler in many ways, that you can work on more than one thing at one time? Or do you find yourself working on more than one film, more than one project, doing a lot of stuff?
I can work on a lot of things at one time. Often I won't. When I made Schindler's List and when I made Saving Private Ryan, I only made those pictures. I did no other business. But sometimes it helps me when I'm working on something to do something else for a half an hour, 45 minutes, because what that gives me is it gives me my objectivity back, something that a filmmaker loses very quickly when they're making a picture. And if I can divert myself and do something else and then come back to it again, I usually come back to it and I suddenly see it from a fresh angle.
So we're no threat of Randy Travis getting a phone call in the middle of the night. Hi, this is Stephen. I found a great song that someone pushed for me.
No, I will not be infringing into any song business in my life. I have a tin here.
Your name is on that, but you let the other guys mess with the musical side of DreamWorks, right?
Yeah, I'm a good audience for them.
You're a good audience for them. And we've heard you attached to every kind of movie known to man. I heard one today, Charles Lindbergh's story with Tom Cruise. Is there any truth to that one?
Well, there's no truth to Tom Cruise and Charles Lindbergh. There is the truth that my company, DreamWorks, purchased the film rights to Scott Berg's as yet unpublished
What a neat story.
book.
I'd like to see that.
It's a good story of Charles Lindbergh.
He said Tom might have been interested in that, but I'm sure he's interested in a lot of things. That's all. I had both Toms.
Yeah.
The other Tom would be good in that, too.
I think I should only cast Toms for Charles Lindbergh.
They're all good. All the Toms are good. Tom Sizemore, he's fine. So all that. Well, it's good seeing you again, and this is really a special movie. And I'm glad you I was wondering, my 12-year-old, who's a pretty sophisticated moviegoer, I didn't think I was going to expose her to this, but you never know anymore. I don't know where to go with that sometimes.
Yeah, I just know that every family knows their children really well, and they're the ones that need to be the judge of that. But I'm just sort of telling people who will listen to me that I don't want my children who are under 14 to see this picture.
So 16, driver's license and up.
Yeah, I mean, driver's permitted up. 15 and up is I think is okay, and then 14 below is not.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Steven Spielberg, he's won every kind of award, and he deserves it, and all those Raiders of the Lost Ark things and everything else.
I forgot about Raiders of the Lost Ark. I totally forgot about that. That was another series that was so great.
A series of great films, and he's big buddies and has been always with George Lucas. They've just played off of each other, to help each other through a lot of different things. And wow, E.T. though, you think of Closer Encounters of the Third Kind, Lord. Yeah. What a great movie that was. Yeah. And even the extended version that he put some more stuff in. Yeah, it was where I don't want to say it because some people may not have actually seen it, but E.T. grossed $700 million worldwide, and that's with those dollars from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a $1 billion movie.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt. Say. And again, his movies are so technically good. The cinematography, the John Williams music accompanies, I guess, all of them. Yeah, they've been partners in crime, for the whole thing. So they've won a lot of Oscars together. And George Lucas, Harrison Ford, have all been there with Steven. And even the ones that have not been particularly the biggest hits in the world. Yeah. He's been executive producer of a ton of things. And he's just an amazing person. 75, heading towards 76. And whatever he's won, he deserves.
Is he still doing it, Jimmy? I mean, is he still in the game? Is he still?
Yeah, I think he's still pretty active, in doing stuff.
I mean, West Side Story was
about the projects, but West Side Story was his, and I wasn't real crazy about that. And Amistad was another one that I didn't get into very well. But man, when you're Band of Brothers, he did with Tom Hanks in the early 2000s, and The Minority Report.
Great, yeah.
With Tom Cruise, I didn't care about that. Yeah. Catch Me If You Can was a weird movie, with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. That was who was in
Love
that one.
that.
That's right.
I love that. He was a fake pilot for Pan Am. That was great. That was, yeah, great.
The Terminal was a weird one. That was one with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
War of the Worlds was 2005. That was okay.
Yeah.
I liked the original. Munich was good.
Mm-hmm.
That was a deep film. So he's, you just never know what you're going to see from Steven Spielberg.
So he's still got a little gas in the tank.
Executive producer of some of those Transformer movies and stuff like that. And again, he's had a lot to do with. His name's been on a lot of different films. And Lincoln was another one. He directed that one with Daniel Day-Lewis, 2012. Most people remember that.
Oh yeah.
So he's done so much, but just fun guy to talk to, like a big kid. He was real buddies with Robin Williams, and they would play before anybody else knew about it.
Yeah.
They were playing these video games together, where one would be in Northern California, one's in Southern California, and they were hooked up on some ISD line or something before anybody had any of that kind of stuff. And they played against each other or played with each other or whatever they did. But they were real big buddies. So again, I think he directed the new Indiana Jones that they did over in Italy. I'm pretty sure he did that and is in the process of putting that up. He's doing another movie called The Fabelmans.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming, and filming began 2021. It's coming out in November of 2020.
So he's still on it.
So he's got, he's still got a lot of stuff. Amblin is his company that has an office on the lot of Universal. So he's always been very, very busy, and obviously as they say here, one of the 100 most important people of the century.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I mean, his movie making and producing and all that has been brilliant.
His art, with just Jaws and E.T. alone, if he didn't do anything else.
Right.
But he's done so many others. Schindler's List, what a great film that was. Very deep. That was very hard to watch, but brilliant.
He has tackled some very tough topics, and he's brought them to life. And that's what,
it was kind of cool just being able to sit with him over the years. And again, if you find 1941, he will appreciate it, and I'll appreciate it. And he loves that movie, and so do I.
Well, Jimmy, thank you for taking us on the back lot of Steven Spielberg and getting to know him, the man, outside the films that he's done. It's just always fascinating. That's what we do every week on The Vault. Make sure you tune in next week, where we'll have a brand new artist, celebrity. We'll go back in time and introduce you personally to them. Until next time on Sweeping the Country, I'm Derik Walker.
Good day.
Good day.
And I'm Jimmy Carter.